Welcome, everyone, to Family Comes First. I'm Vincent J. Russo.
And I'm Victoria Roberts-Drogan. Thank you for joining us. Vincent, can you believe this is our 10th season on Family Comes First? And in this season, a clear theme arose from the shows. How does one survive and flourish when faced with profound challenges and setbacks?
Victoria, I couldn't agree more. These shows are all about love and the power of giving that flows from that love. Let's share some of our favorite moments with you.
The best of season 10, right here on Family Comes First. Over this past season, we've shared stories that were truly inspirational. We spent time with Presley Majas and her dad, Paul. Presley was being bullied on her school bus and found a unique way to handle it.
We then met Katie Duffy Schumacher, the author of the book, Don't Press Send, which addresses cyberbullying. Let's take a look at No Laughing Matter, right here on Family Comes First.
Bullying can take so many forms. Tell us about your story. What happened with you?
Well, there would be like a lot of name calling involved because I have like freckles and people would make fun of me because of that.
You're so beautiful.
And there was another day where it got physical, where two boys started punching each other, and I somehow got involved with that.
Oh, terrible.
And so when you say you got involved with that, what actually happened?
Well, I was sitting on the bus, and the boys happened to be right next to me, and then they started pushing me.
Oh.
So they pulled you into it?
Yeah.
Oh, terrible. And, you know, as a dad, you know, you feel a feeling of rage.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do?
It was a daily experience of her getting off the bus and coming off crying. And there were times that she didn't want to tell us because one of the boys was her friend. Right. Which I think hurt her even more.
Of course.
You know, because one moment the kid is nice and one moment he's not, and making fun, and but we think it was probably another kid that was maybe even bullying him, and kind of kind of pushing him to make fun, you know. So this peer pressure type of
right, which is irrational.
experience.
So you know, one day your friend is your friend, and then the next minute.
Right, right. We were blessed because she had an outlet with the song and the music. And we were kind of able to kind of mitigate.
So tell us about that. You're a musician.
Yeah.
Well known, and you know, you grew up in this musical family. So what happened? How did this song come about? We're going to watch it.
Oh, well, maybe let's watch it first.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that.
All
okay,
right.
Let's watch the video. Don't push me around.
Hey, you, stop putting me down. If you're gonna be a bully, and a bully's all you'll ever be. Hey, stay away from me.
I know you are, but what am I? Sticks and stones. They bring me bones. Well, you gotta be so but names will never hurt me.
Why you all up in my grill, looking like your looks could kill now? You keep saying this and that, betting with an idle chat now. Hope you please just understand that I'm just trying to be your friend now. I'm missing weakness. Now you're gonna see this when I stand up to you and say, hey, you, don't push me around.
It is so great that you could express yourself in a way that brings, you know, you got to feel great about it, right? That, you know, maybe you were feeling not so great about yourself with this bullying, and now you've done something you can feel inspired and power to you. That is great. We just met with Presley and her dad, Paul. Talk to us about cyberbullying.
although theirs was an offline situation, that situation could have easily become a cyber situation where Paul went to the parent's house and discussed it. That could have been written on social media and made it so much worse for Presley. Thank goodness it didn't, but there are cases and cases. We read the newspaper, things that you don't even hear about. I go to schools and I give presentations. The stories I hear are heartbreaking.
Yes.
The reality is we need to give them these strategies so that this doesn't become a norm.
Maybe you can give us some tips. Tips for the children, tips for the parents. Can you give us just a few on each?
A few things where cell phones should not be, or devices should not be at your dinner table. They should. I don't put it in my car with my kids because they're trapped. They have to listen to me for that few-minute drive. And they don't belong in their bedroom. They're using them at alarm clocks. They're 2 in the morning. They're constantly, and that's a whole attachment piece.
Right.
We need to teach our children about empathy, that the screen creates an emotional disconnect. We are human beings who relied on body language. We need that. And that's where the unkindness comes, because they're not seeing the hurt, because anybody's going to back off when you hurt someone. And I would recommend downloading the app. The app is just a list of rules. It's the pledge. 23 countries it's been downloaded.
Awesome. We'll put that up on our website for Family Comes
The book
First.
gives you outlines of how to set up an environment in your home and in your schools.
Great.
We then got to know Joe Satriano, who set up the Susan Satriano Memorial Foundation in loving memory of his wife, Susan. This scholarship program is for high school students who have either lost a parent to cancer or who have a parent battling the disease.
Joe also wrote a book about his love story with Susan and her battle with cancer called In Sickness and in Health. All of the proceeds from the book go to the scholarship program. Let's take a look at In Sickness and in Health right here on Family Comes First.
So 16 years in, she contracted breast cancer, and then 13 years after, she passes away. I actually had retired 4 years early from my teaching job to be with her because her health had taken such a bad turn, and I was literally cheating the kids I was teaching in front of that classroom. I was there physically, but not mentally.
How old were your boys when she was diagnosed?
9 and 4.
Wow.
That's tough.
Yeah, it was difficult, you know. But the amazing thing is, and I'll call it the human spirit because I don't know what else to call it, how it allows us to take these punches between our eyes and somehow, some way, we reel backwards the appropriate amount of time. It's different for everybody in terms of the grief process. But somehow we take all that negativity, stop it in its tracks, assess where we are. We may not like how we got where we are, but we had no control of that.
Right.
The control we have is what we do with where we are. And you find your path. You somehow find a way to make it through.
My wife, Mariam, was diagnosed with cancer back in 2003, just before Ryan turned 4.
Wow.
Yes, and I still can remember the day I got the phone call. I was at work when the results of the biopsy came back.
Wow.
And I could say it was one of the most horrible phone calls I ever took in my life when my wife called me and told me what the news was. So we basically went into, getting better mode.
Right.
And the first problem I realized with having young children is when my wife was experiencing the effects of chemotherapy and radiation. Young children, like my son Ryan, was afraid of her wig, seeing his mother with no hair, no eyebrows. And we basically, my wife, she was a trooper.
And Marion today?
Mariam today is in remission. She's doing excellent.
Fantastic.
And she's a little upset that her young son is going away to Mount St. Mary.
Well, that's a good problem. How did Marion feel when Ryan was receiving this scholarship?
It was all different types of emotion. It really was. It was sad, but in the same thing, she was very happy. She was very proud. She was glad that he got recognized. She always thought, that, I hope that this doesn't affect them. That it's, they were young and they were in elementary school. They were getting older, and everything worked out just the communication and everything worked out great, and she's just so proud. And I couldn't even begin to tell you when Ryan went up and got the award.
Right.
Everybody was turning, because she had the waterworks going, and I started to cry, and it's just, it's an accomplishment.
I'd like to understand, so you create this foundation, and then you have to identify and find the students. So what did you do? What did you do initially to then create this process that now exists?
I took Sue's life insurance check and divvied it up amongst 4 kids. Wow. From there, it has now grown in leaps and bounds, and I can't believe I'm telling you these numbers.
Right. Well, you're a math teacher. You can do it.
I can tell you the numbers.
You can do it.
Right. I'm hoping for infinity with these numbers, but not quite yet.
That would be great.
But I'm helping over 60 districts on Long Island and the tri-state area.
So how did this network blossom like that?
You know, it's either people come to my book talks, they will hear me mention the foundation, inevitably someone out there in the audience knows a kid or a parent who's going through it.
That makes sense.
You know, social media, I'm there. I've been on radio and television as well.
Due to the sensitive nature of this particular scholarship, we collaborate with the social worker and the school psychologist and teachers to see if they know of anybody that maybe we don't know, because sometimes students have been afflicted from such a long time ago, but we don't really know about it now because we didn't know them until they got to high school.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Family Comes First. We have been looking at the best of Season 10.
Vincent, drug addiction is a disease that is all too prevalent in today's world. This next story is about those going through it day by day, their families, and those who have dedicated themselves to helping.
We spoke with Eileen Boyle, whose son Timothy is currently fighting addiction. And we also learned about the Talbot House, which is a crisis center for those who need to take the first step to help themselves. Let's take a look at Fighting Addiction, Part 1, here on Family Comes First.
So, tell us about your son. Tell us about Tim.
Tim was a type of person in high school. He never drank, never used drugs, was afraid of drugs. And after our daughter died of bacterial meningitis, he couldn't deal with it. And his friends saw that he was depressed, and he was offered cocaine, and he liked the feeling. And it went on from there.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
We're so sorry that you're having to go through this, and the loss of your daughter had to be tragic.
Tragic. So we were blinded by grief, so we were not aware of his use. So all the signs and warning signs were hidden.
Well, you were dealing with something else.
Trying to breathe.
Huge.
Yeah.
When did you first become aware of
You know, I'm trying to remember, because it was the way he was acting. He was acting different, because he struggled with ADHD, and I know that's an issue for him. And I found out later that cocaine makes him think better and clearer. And it took us a while to find the signs, and I can't remember the beginning. But then we started seeing things missing, and still believing that we weren't the type of family to steal from each other. No one ever did that. We always respected each other's things. So this was foreign to us, and we couldn't believe it. So when we saw it after seeing through grief, we didn't believe it. And so we just let it go on for longer. The big thing was never thinking that Timmy would sell my husband's guitar at a pawn shop. Pawn shops, I hate. I've had to go back a few times to get things.
Wow. How old was Tim when this all started?
Tim was 23. Almost 23. Kate died on her 20th birthday, and Timmy was 2.5 years older.
The first thing you have to do is decide that you're going to be open and outgoing about it. Because if you're not, finding help is impossible. And so then when you reach out for help, you reach out to somebody who has either experienced what you're going through or works in the field and can help you navigate this treacherous road. It's awful.
I do remember getting help from my sister who's a social worker, and she was able to reach out and help me find things because I was blinded. I didn't know anything about
Right, you're struggling.
drug use.
Well, and your situation was doubly impacted.
And I could see how denial
is
comes in
huge,
play because you have a loving family.
Loving family.
You know,
Right, good kids.
Yeah, good kids.
Our kids are good kids.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this happens to good kids.
Right.
And like you said, being open. When you start to take those steps, do they work? What happens next?
There's this community that they're out here to help people because we've experienced ourselves, or we work in the field. And once you connect to that community, there is a lot of help, but there's still struggles. There's a lot of struggles to meet, and so in Eileen's case and John, a lot of the issue is to accept the help, reach out for the help, which Eileen reached out a couple of years ago to me, and then find out what's there. Because it's not like, it's not the diseases of 50 years ago where, okay, you reach out to the doctor and the doctor helps you and you do what you can. This is something you have to navigate on your own.
Yeah. And it seems...
Up until recently, I would say.
And it seems it's a lifelong challenge.
It's a lifelong challenge, yes. It's once you get bitten by the disease, it stays harbored in your body for life. And it's a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back for Timmy.
So I understand he's been in a number of different
many
rehabs.
And he does good, and Tim is back. And then over time, we lose him again.
Unfortunately, sometimes the drug addiction results in the death of a loved one.
And in the second part of our 2-part show on addiction, we met with 2 mothers who lost their sons. And now they are advocates in the war against drugs. Let's take a look at Fighting Addiction, Part 2, here on Family Comes First.
Thomas was 21 when he passed. He passed 5 years ago on March 14, 2012. He had just come home from St. Christopher's Inn, and we had an incredible evening, with my kids, and he was looking forward to going back to college and playing men's lacrosse and doing everything that he loved to do. And there is a very stark difference between my son, who struggled with substance use disorder, and my son. So my son, I miss every second of every day. Thomas, struggling with substance use, the addict, I don't like that word, so I try not to use it, is someone that is kidnapped to the drug. And they are not the person that they are true to be. They are, lying, deviant thieves who will do whatever it takes to get their next
Because
fix.
they can't help it.
They can't help it.
Timothy was 23, almost 24. He died on August 29, 2009. And Timothy had enjoyed 8.5 months of sobriety.
Wow.
And unfortunately used on the night of August 28th the same amount he would have used 8.5 months before, which caused a fatal overdose. Timothy, all through school, was part of a group he called, they called themselves Straight Edge. No drinking, no drugs, no smoking. And he was a strong advocate against drugs, and unfortunately suffered from migraine headaches. And I can't call him a doctor, a drug dealer posing as a doctor, led him purposely down this path. Timothy reported that person 4 months before he passed away. And that person was arrested 3 months later after Tim passed away. And that's kind of what led me to realize that is Timothy's unfortunate legacy, that we had to make change. And if parents like myself and Linda can speak up in a way that we can help to make that change come about, then that's what we have to do for our children.
Talk to us about Resolutions for Recovery.
2 years ago, I started fortunately, was given the opportunity to host the show. It was originally named Long Island in Crisis, and now it's Resolutions for Recovery. And you can find the show on thomashopefoundation.org. They're all housed there. They're on YouTube. And
What do they talk about?
This past spring, the only thing I spoke about was prevention.
Excellent.
Because we came through the summer, and parents need to have the information available. How do I keep my young children? You don't need to talk about drugs and alcohol, but we do need to start to talk about coping skills. We need to start talking about problem solving with a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. We need to start having those. They need to know that they can come to their parents with anything, and there'll be time set aside to solve. Not mom and dad solve the problem for them. Empower them and give them the tools to solve their own problems.
Our last episode of Season 10 was about athletes with disabilities.
We spoke to Laura Webster, a Paralympian who won gold in sitting volleyball at the 2016 Games in Rio. Let's take a look at Going for Gold right here on Family Comes First.
Tell us about your life. Tell us how this started. I know you had a life-changing event at 11 years old.
I did. When I was a kid, I was always that very stereotypical active kid. I was always outside, nonstop, playing every sport that I could. And after some knee pain that had been bothering me for a couple of months, we went to the doctor. And within 5 days, we were told that I had a tumor. I had a biopsy done, and then I was set up to start chemo, all within less than a week.
Wow.
And so it was a lot to take in for our family. Your life was just upended, and we didn't really have time to process everything, which kind of worked out to be good because we didn't have time to dwell on it.
Okay.
And immediately we were thrown in to getting past it, which was nice. We were on the path to getting past the cancer. And in the middle of my chemo treatments, the doctors asked me what surgery that I wanted to have to get rid of the tumor and how I would live the rest of my life.
And you're an 11-year-old.
An 11-year-old, yes.
Having to struggle with a decision like that.
And
So
my parents allowed me to make the decision.
Wow.
They did. They gave me the option to be an above-knee amputee, where they would amputate the leg from about mid-thigh down, and I would have a prosthetic with an artificial knee joint. Or they gave me the option to have an artificial knee joint put in, where cosmetically the leg would look the same, but the function would not be the high-impact ability that sports would require, and that was something that I wanted to maintain in my life after cancer. And the third option was a surgery called rotationplasty, in which they would take away the knee and the tumor and cut about mid-shin and mid-thigh and take that part of my leg out and then rotate the bottom part of my leg around 180 degrees and connect it to the remaining part of the femur. So now my foot is on backwards, but my foot and my ankle joint would act as my new knee joint. So I would have full control over how my leg moved.
So that gave you the most options as an athlete.
It did, for sure.
Okay.
And it allowed, there was no phantom pains that I would be feeling, which is something that a lot of amputees have to suffer through. And I wanted to see what it was all about. So we went out to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and I walked into the gym and I saw people sitting on the ground with a volleyball net lower. The base of the net was on the ground. And I was like, oh, this looks like volleyball, but nothing that I've seen before. And immediately I was taken by what the sport could be. In those early days, we didn't really, it wasn't really volleyball the way that I was used to playing.
Right.
And so, but I knew that it was a sport that was challenging and much harder than standing volleyball, because in sitting volleyball, you're sitting on the ground on your bottom, and you have to move with your hands to get to the ball because you don't have your legs. But you still have to get your hands up fast enough to play.
So it's very athletic.
So the speed, yes, very much so, which is a misconception about adaptive sports. People believe that it's a watered-down version of the regular able-bodied sport, when in fact most adaptive sports are much harder.
Not if you've ever watched
than able-bodied sports. Exactly.
They are,
And so with the net being lower, the speed of the game is so much faster, because by the time the hitter contacts the ball, the person that's digging it has less time to react to the ball.
There's less
space for the ball to travel, not to mention that you have to pick your hands up from getting your body to the ball and then move your hands up to play.
Incredible.
It's addicting. It is. It was just immediately, it was something that I knew was going to be a lot of fun. And so I wanted to be a part of the Paralympics, and I wanted to grow the sitting volleyball and the Paralympics in the U.S. and to help kids and people who might not know that sports could still be a part of their life, and just to help them find the joy that I've found in sports.
You've been in 4
Yes.
Paralympics.
Yes, correct.
And tell us.
Sure. My first was in Athens in 2004. We were new to the sitting volleyball world, and we came in and we won bronze. We beat the teams that have been playing for decades, and we surprised the sitting volleyball world, and we took home a bronze.
Amazing.
And that was in Athens in 2004. In Beijing in 2008, we won a silver. We lost to China. We played the home team in a stadium full of 8,000 plus people, and it was a phenomenal experience.
I have goosebumps just listening to this. I really do.
Yes, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It made losing the gold much easier to be in that kind of environment. In London, we also won silver, losing again to China. And then in Rio in 2016, we won our gold medal.
That is unbelievable.
Yes.
And so heavy.
So heavy, yes.
Wow.
And thankfully, we had our 3rd time against China in the finals match. And this time, we beat them in 3.
amazing.
We beat them good.
Vincent, looking back, I'm truly amazed at all of the strong, inspiring people we've had on our show this season.
And these were difficult shows in the sense that families were facing tragedies, struggling to deal with the challenges of day-to-day life, bullying,
and
drugs,
also uplifting.
all these issues.
I mean, you know, to have mothers on who lost their children and now have dedicated themselves to helping others in the same position. To Joe, who turned his wife's death into something so beautiful, to tell high school students that I understand what you're going through. You're not alone in going through this. You know, it was a remarkable season.
And I think the theme for me was love. It's the expression of love. Families reaching out to their children, communities reaching out. And I love the idea that this is a very positive show that we have.
And resilience, you know, bouncing back from something terrible that happens and finding it within yourself, whether it's your faith, your community, your family, which enables you then to do something to help others.
Right.
And I'm humbled by this show. You know, I look at our world and our life, and I'm so appreciative because these people have done so much with what life has handed them.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Feel the same way. I believe that our strength of our show, as you've said, is having the opportunity to share the stories of these remarkable people with the hope that we can empower others to face their own personal challenges with the support of family and friends.
Yeah, and to provide them with the resources to do so, to know that they're not alone, that there are others who were able to access support, to access resources, whether it's a book or an organization. That's the true goal of what we try to do here.
Right.
So for a list of available resources and to view our shows from past seasons, you can visit Vincent's Law Firm's website at vjrussolaw.com.
Thanks to all our viewers for joining us. And remember, family truly does come first.
Thank you.